like Drake at the Grammys.
You're right.
They did us like Drake at the Grammys.
No. I forgot live has a time limit.
What's the time limit on live?
I think an hour. Yeah, because we started at.
No, we wasn't on for an hour yet.
Yeah, I started this at 7:30.
Oh, that's a fact. They really did us like Drake at the Grammys. Nah, you start talking some real stuff, that joint just shut off. That's crazy. Who that? That's Benzino?
Yeah.
What's good, Ock?
But I mean, it's cool because we were kind of just wrapping up anyway.
Huh? Yeah.
You got that slide?
Yo, Ben.
Yo.
We out to the track?
We out to the track. Yo, say less, bro. I'm there.
Say less.
You know that.
Let me see. All right. Huh? I think right there. That's the bottom of it. If not, I don't know. Can you make sure you close that? Yeah. All right. I'm about to add my guy in right now. We're gonna have another chat.
Wait, how you do that?
I can't. I don't think I can add multiple people.
But let me just say this before I skate. For the young athletes out there, man, I hope y'all are learning from everybody's mistakes. Do not learn on your own.
Yo.
Please don't learn on your own, bro. You know, like, there's so many anecdotes, so many stories, so many wins and losses. Learn from that stuff. Yeah. Learn from that stuff, man.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, bro, we gonna chop it up.
Yeah,
so we gotta have another one of these.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna start doing these on a regular.
Yeah, we gotta do one of these. Yo, holla at me.
All right.
Yo, to the flying ants faithful. You know what I'm saying?
For real.
Holla at y'all. All right, bro.
All right, bro. All right. Hold on, let me see. There you go. My guy, what's going on, man?
Turn me up in the headphones, man. What's going on?
Nothing much, bro. How you doing?
Doing well, man. I'm doing well. I got my questions ready. I'm locked and loaded in this room, doing a lot of hollering. I'm just excited, man. I'm excited. I got some people that wanted me to ask some questions on their behalf. So yeah, man, we're good. How was your chat before this?
Say that again.
How was your chat before this?
It was cool. It was cool. I was talking to my co-founder. His name is Derek. He's actually been like looking at a lot of the stuff on your page.
Okay.
But he was my teammate prior to becoming my co-founder. That's how I met him, is through basketball at Purchase.
Okay.
And so we kind of just evolved from there.
Yeah. I didn't know he was your teammate. I knew you had a partner or whatnot.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't know he was your teammate. But okay. Yeah, man.
Yeah, for sure. How are you staying busy and sharp during these times right now where everybody has to be inside?
Me personally, I'm just really up in my game as far as reaching out to individuals that I want to be on the channel.
Right.
I realize that it's not just my story. So when I can start bringing other people's story, like yourself and some other people I've been working with, that's what it makes the pot even that much sweeter. So yeah, man, that's what I've been doing, really. Getting up in the morning, getting the workout in the morning outside, where everybody, is in the house and whatnot, sleep. So that's it. What about yourself?
Man, I'm trying to recover. I got a bad ankle sprain, strained a few ligaments in my left ankle. So I'm gonna be out for another month or so, but I'll be back. So I mean, besides like recovery stuff, I've done a little bit of reading. I've been watching a lot of TED Talks, a little bit of Netflix, and some art.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I know you're an artist. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. Listen, man, I want to first of all, I've been wanting to talk to you for a while because the transition has been phenomenal, right? Like from the last time that I talked to you, what was it called? The Dark
Yeah.
Horse Challenge.
The dark. Wow, that was that long ago.
Like,
that was 2 years ago. That's
yeah,
really
man.
2 years ago to this day. The Dark Horse Challenge ended on actually 2 years ago from yesterday, March 24th, 2018.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Flew by.
Crazy.
Flew by. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just seeing your progression or whatnot, it's been inspiring for me. And I'm not even playing college basketball, but I just want to make sure that we give you your just due and make sure people know that you're a Division III athlete. And a lot of times the narrative beforehand was, you know, if you weren't Division I or played in the NBA, then, you know, you're a scrub or what your contributions aren't valid in the world of basketball. But when I saw, who was it? Kenny the Jet and Charles Barkley arguing about if they could do your dunk, I was like, come on, man. Like, God, how did that feel when you heard them talking like that?
A lot of people were messaging me and asking me, was I upset about Kenny's take over the fact that Kenny thinks he could do that dunk?
Yeah.
For me, I didn't care if they all felt that was a 1 out of 10, or just the fact that they dedicated a whole segment live on TNT the day before the dunk contest to speak about something that that I got a chance to create is just such a surreal feeling, and that's definitely one of my favorite videos.
Yeah,
sure.
man.
Definitely.
And definitely rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. But his take on. Like,
on the first
that's big, man. Like that's big. It just proves to me. It just kind of doesn't prove anything. It just kind of it reaffirms something I've already known is if you can hoop, you can hoop. Like if you can do something within the game of basketball, it doesn't matter whether it's NAIA, Division III, or however you want to rank it. You know, hooper's hoop, and you definitely you showed that on the biggest stage now. Everybody's been talking about it. So that's wow.
It's such a good point that you bring it up with the Division III stuff. A lot of people, I get daily messages from people just trying to figure out what school I went to. Some people don't know, and B, the very next question is, was that Division I? Is that in the SEC? Is that in the ACC? I'm like, no. I went to a Division III school. I played for a Division III program all 4 years of my college career.
Yeah.
And so sometimes people do get taken back by that because I do understand that it's not the traditional D3 story.
Sure.
But just as you said, it does not matter what school you go to.
Yeah.
You can create a path for yourself.
Absolutely.
You got the right things in place.
Yeah. Just blazing your own path. I mean, when I think of you, I think of guys like the guy in Handle Life. What's his name? Johnny. Yeah, you got Handle Life. You got B Dot. You got these individuals that
so many.
They just blaze their own path and say, okay, I see what you said. This is success, but I'm going to create my own version of success. I'm going to be dang good at it. I just think that's amazing.
Right. And I think that also is a testament to I don't know if you've ever seen this picture, and it's a picture of 2 lines side by side, and the first line is a straight line, and it says what everybody thinks the path to success looks like. And the other side is just this completely big scribble of a line, and it gets close to the end point, then it turns around, there's all this stuff, and then eventually you get there. But that's the realistic side. And that all of those curves and turnarounds, etc., they basically just represent all of the things that you're going to encounter, and it's never going to be a 1, 2, 3 walk in the park.
Sure.
Get to that end goal.
A
lot of people seem to still believe that.
Sure. I mean, that's the only thing we post on Instagram. You know, that's
right.
Highlight clip. So I understand that, but man, just being able to highlight you from that standpoint, I would do it every day of the week, man, because I feel like I'm just more. My mindset is, I just want individuals that have a love for the game to not miss out on the opportunity. I mean, I work at a university, and I know cats that were freshmen that I was basically begging them to go out for the team, but they They just didn't have the, like, I don't want to do it. But come their senior year, they look at me now and say, Bill, I wish I would have went out and
did that.
it's like they kill intramurals, like kill. And played in a great system coming from high school or whatnot, but just didn't want to throw their name in the hat as far as college was concerned for whatever reason. And I mean, man, get out there and hoop, man. Get out there and hoop. You don't have all day.
Can you give everybody kind of like a synopsis of your hoop background or just your background in general, what your experience was?
Sure. So my situation was, I mean, all of our situations are unique. But my situation was different in the sense that I wasn't supposed to be playing basketball. You know, I failed the 6th grade. I got associate promoted in the 8th grade to the 9th grade, which meant I failed that as well. They just can't fail you twice under the same roof. I was special education classes, and my dad was old school in the sense of he was like, if you can't get your grades, then you're not playing on anybody's basketball team. Come my 9th grade year, I did like one of those double dipping deal where you ask your mom, you ask your dad something, and then he says no, and you go back to your mom and ask your mom, and she says yes. I did something like that when I was in school, and my mom messed around and said yes, and my dad had already told me no, but I felt like he was gonna be, I'm gonna go for it, man. I'm gonna go for it. So, like a long story short, I got on the basketball team. My dad said, if you make a D or F, you're gonna tell your friends that you weren't smart enough to stay on the basketball team. I never looked back. So fast forward. Junior college, I had an opportunity to play at College of Eastern Utah in Price, Utah. I got that opportunity just because I was in the right place at the right time. There was a guy that went to my high school. His name is Chris Anderson, 6'8", who went on to go to Wyoming. But the coach gave me a shot. He said, well, he did well here, so we're gonna give you a shot. We're gonna redshirt you, let you prove yourself and whatnot. So I redshirted, paid my own way, and then every year after that, I got it paid for. So with my freshman year, my father passed away of cancer, and I think I was 19 then. And then after that year, my mother passed away of cancer, and I dropped out of college. When I dropped out of college, I dropped out of college for 2 years. And then when I got back in, it was just me just rapping on the doors of people that have sent me letters over the years. Letters over the years. I was like, look, man, I'm trying to get my stuff paid for, you know. And they said, well, we'll give you a tryout. And I got some doors slammed in my face. Some teams that was like, and it's crazy because NAIA school, and I think it was in Memphis. It is in Tennessee, no doubt, but I think it was in Memphis. It's called Crichton. It's spelled Crichton, but it's called Crichton. Max, when I tell you them boys ran me out that gym, ran me, like, listen, man, I mean, like, rightfully so. Them boys ready, like, everybody. Like, it was amazing. As far as the level of basketball, no one would ever think that being at an NAIA school. Them guys were the real deal. So I didn't get that opportunity. I went to a different school, didn't get the opportunity. And I landed at Ouachita Baptist University. And it's in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. And I'm forever indebted for them to provide that opportunity for me. I mean, the school was, at that time, it was, I mean, it's more money now, but at that time it was $25,000 a year. And they paid for it. And yeah, man, I feel fortunate, I feel blessed that I had that opportunity. But it was much of that scribble line that you were talking about. I never thought about that in high school. I would never have thought that, you know, that was going to play out. And when we're kids, we see that straight line, but we don't realize that, man, life happens. Life happens. There's injuries. There's deaths in the family. People may go through a divorce. You may lose your home. You might, all kinds of crazy stuff. But
Corona, like.
Exactly. Yeah, spot on. Yeah, man. It's just wild. But yeah, that's my story, man. I have a younger sister, right? Well, she's like 5 years younger than me. And I really realized that having gone through that college experience myself, I was able to provide her with some information that I wish I would have had going through it myself. So when you come to talking to coaches, I mean, we think about it, coaches, some of your coaches have been in this game for 2, 3, maybe even 4 decades. Right. And here you are, bright-eyed, bushy tail, still wet behind the ears. You get in that office with this coach. You don't know what to say. Right. You're too busy trying to be polite. If you were raised right, yes, sir, no, ma'am, trying to be polite or whatnot. But you need to know how to advocate for yourself as well. And that's something that I was able to provide for my sister. And she felt more confident having had somebody that went there and gone through that. Like, look, this is what we're working on. And we're going to be respectful, no doubt, but I'm knowledgeable about this process as well. This is not very new to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. So how did, I mean, just for everybody watching, how did Hoop Loudy come about?
Man, it came about. It was birthed from that, really, in the sense of I knew that if there was any audience that I really wanted to work with. Granted, I work at a university. I'm encroaching upon my 10th year, so working in a university style setting. So I work with students. I love the college age students, but student athletes, man, they it's a different kind of feeling. Not a better feeling, just a different kind of feeling. Because I know that if it wasn't for basketball, Max, I wouldn't be on a college campus. I wouldn't have graduated high school, let alone college. And I was fortunate enough to get a master's. So I see that narrative a lot when I'm working with these college students. And maybe it's not basketball for them. Maybe it's playing a doggone cello. Maybe it's, you know, being a part of the tennis or whatever it is. My thing is, let me help you use that as a vehicle to get where you're at from where you want to be, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great point, because a lot of people think it's either league or nothing, or it's D1 or nothing.
Sure.
But this sport, basketball in particular, but really anything that you're doing, but we're just going to stick to basketball because that's what we're both in. But it's a tool, and just like you said, it is a vehicle to take you places and get you in rooms that you otherwise would have not been able to get to.
No doubt, no doubt.
Like I have teammates, I've got some globetrotter teammates that have played in over 85 countries. And so the fact that they were able to play in such a broad variety of locations is nothing short than due to what basketball has done for them and how they've utilized basketball in their lives.
Yeah. And how dare you look at that like it's a failure because it's not the NBA? Like, why would you even...
Like, I don't know. I can't even, I would never be able to fathom that kind of take, or that perspective as to why that would be a failure, but that is obviously a common thing. And so that's, of course, what both of us are working on, kind of chopping down within society.
Yeah.
There are endless opportunities that come from the game, and it really pays off when you use the game to open up a door to who you really are.
No doubt.
And that's when a multitude of other opportunities and other areas and other lanes start to come your way, because then they're like, oh, okay, he's got some expertise in this, or he's interested in that, or he's good at public speaking. There's just so many different things that can come from it, even if you don't get to the league. That's what I need everybody to understand.
Absolutely, absolutely. And both sides of that coin, I couldn't agree more. Both sides of that coin is kind of what led up to the name, right? So hoop is obviously basketball, but Loudy kind of speaks towards graduation with distinction, kind of like summa cum laude, magna cum laude. Just want to marry the two. We want you to be equipped when you're talking about picking a major, right? I don't want you majoring in something like wash your hands with soap. I don't want you majoring in that. I want you to major in something that is actually going to be beneficial to your family afterwards, right? I don't want you to major in something that's just going to keep you eligible. I want you to major in something that you can feed your son or daughter after the fact. And it's nobody's job but yours to do that. It's not your coach's job.
You really hit the nail on the head. You really hit the nail on the head with that, bro.
Yeah, man. I'm passionate about it. I can talk all day about it. Like 5 days a week, I can talk about this.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
One of the things that I've always seen is what you just pointed out right there.
Sure.
Is the fact that probably 80 to 85% of my teammates have selected a major that is only going to keep them academically afloat. They don't care about anything else post-graduation, nothing. Whatever is that easiest major that's going to keep them on the team.
Sure. It's rough, man. It's rough. And I have to preface this, Max, because if someone takes a sound clip of this, then they'll write a news article about something I don't mean. But, and I say that because coaches have been the most, short of my parents, have been the most impressionable people in my life.
Right.
Not teachers, coaches. They knew how to motivate me. They held me accountable, yada, yada, yada. But it's not their job. Like, they're not incentivized to make sure you pick a major that's going to feed your family.
Right.
They're incentivized for winning ball games.
Right.
And that's how we we only know Coach K. We only know Coach K because of his win-loss margin.
Right.
When we start talking about the Coach K's or the Bobby Knights or the Rory Williams, the Jim Calhoun, the doggone Jim Boeheim, whoever it is, we're talking about them because they win. Pat Summitt, we talk about her because she wins. No doubt, like the mentality. I'm not taking anything away from them. But what I am saying is we don't talk about them because their kids have 4.0s or they're all business majors or like you finance. That's not the case. You know?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So we want to speak about that as well. As far as you going to Division III school, how has that been helpful, if it's been helpful, in navigating these waters after college when you're going around from state to state, when you're going around dunk contests and being an entrepreneur and raising the awareness of your brand? How has it been helpful for you?
I think first of all, I think that's a great question, and I think there's two parts to this. So first, before I get deep into my answer, I do want to say that Division III is almost like never marketed in any way, shape, or form. The only time that you see Division III basketball on a national scale is when it's time for the Division III tournament, which is on like ESPN3.
Sure.
You don't really hear about any Division III products unless somebody gets to the NBA, which has only happened like twice. Duncan Robinson right now. So I do want to put that out there. And with that being said, I think that part of the reason is that because people know that the likelihood of going to the NBA or playing professionally from the Division III level, the rate is significantly less than a Division I or II program.
Sure.
And so
I'm listening.
So because of that, a lot of times people do it as a failure when it is entirely not the case.
Yeah.
But the Division III athletes who are aware, or I should say self-aware, that maybe professionally or the NBA is not fitting for my future, it automatically gives them a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder, and it broadens their vision because they understand that you're going to have to do something as soon as you get out of college.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that you have to completely disconnect yourself from the sport that you play, because you don't. And I'll just use myself as an example. I'm not in the NBA, but I'm still very well connected to the basketball atmosphere. I've got friends like Max is Nice, Famous Los, B-Dot, all friends that have never played in the NBA that are making a living through the game of basketball and utilizing their platforms on social media. And so once you're able to tap into that mindset and that perspective of really figuring out all of your options and avenues of success or opportunity, that's when you can really start to develop your future before it's time to actually transition out of college.
Yeah.
So I think the Division III level has helped me in that sense, as far as allowing me to broaden my vision earlier than I might have if I were at a high major Division I program.
Yeah. Okay. And for those, I don't want to make any assumptions or whatnot, because we may have some parents in here or some individuals that just are fan of student athletes and not a student athlete themselves.
Right.
But Division I, in a nutshell, there's some other things that can be said, but I'll just keep it brief. The Reader's Digest. A Division I program, typically they have more funds for scholarships. They have a larger net. All right. Their enrollment is a lot bigger. You think about the big state schools, the UNCs, North Carolinas, the Dukes. Well, that's not state school, but Dukes, Texas. Those kind of schools would be considered as Division I, and they have a lot more budget for scholarships. Division II has budget for scholarships as well. Athletic scholarship as well, but not as much as Division I. And Division III doesn't have any athletic aid at all. So that lets you know that they're not operating with the same large net that a Division I is operating. So that's why I'm always singing your praises, as far as like he came from this situation and he was still able to blaze his own path. And I just think it's a big deal. Another person has done this. I don't know if you're familiar with him. I'm pretty sure you've heard of him. Dre Baldwin.
Yeah.
Dre Baldwin went to a Division III school, and it was like Penn State, Altoona, or whatnot. I consume a lot of his content.
I've actually heard of that school.
Yeah, I've interviewed him on the channel early on as well, and man, he's looking at the game of basketball, and he's using principles from the game of basketball and applying them in a business way. And I'm reading this book now, Work on Your Game and whatnot. And again, that same story of I was at a Division III school, a place where you don't get much hype. Then he went on to play 9 years professionally overseas, still not in the NBA, and he's made his own brand, man.
Right.
So, I think that's awesome.
For sure, man.
I think that's awesome.
What was I gonna say? So, as far as post, I guess you could say post college, or kind of that transition out of college. What do you think is the largest contributor to the reason why people struggle with that transition?
Man, there's some layers there, man. How long? Yeah, I know they're gonna kick us off. Well, I think that it depends on what background. I don't want to stereotype people, but it depends on different people's background. Some people, they've only seen folks that look like them be successful in those actual those spaces. Yep. So, you know, I worked at a school. I worked at a school in Illinois. It was it catered to math and science. Okay. Now these kids are some of the sharpest of the sharp. It's like the dream team of nerds. Like they're the real deal, right? Yeah. So you get some individuals in there that say, I'm going to be an engineer, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be an architect or whatnot. And you look back and say, what gives them the audacity to dream that? Because their parents are that. And because there are a lot of people that look like them that are doing that. So it's not a huge leap to say the same thing for basketball. If I'm a black boy growing up at 10 years old and I see on TV Kobe Bryant and Tim Duncans, and I see them in those roles more so than I see architects, then what you think I'm going to do? You know? I think that's tough when you come to that realization of figuring out that, you know, that's not going to be your deal. And it's tough when you come from a community that they celebrate. And I'm not saying everybody has this right. But I know some communities, they celebrate more how many touchdowns you run than you make an honor roll. Right. You make an honor roll is kind of being lame, but you getting 3 touchdowns in a game, that's dope. So you're combating all those things as well, in my opinion. Yeah, for sure. I actually first of all, I agree 1,000,000%. I also think that it doesn't happen at that very moment when it's time to transition. It happens a decade before you get into college, if not more. Yeah, okay. That problem starts to manifest for most of our athletes in middle school, in elementary school, middle school, because again, the stigmas that were provided based off of our environment really shape our way of thinking and our vision as far as how we're going to go about the next 10 years of life. And I know I'm actually going to try and put together a survey, especially while everyone's home and on their phones. Sure. And I'm going to just put together a survey and try to see if I can get a little bit more insight of how a lot of the, what is the newest generation? Gen Z? I believe so, man. Yeah.
How Gen Z.
Yeah, I'm a millennial, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm a millennial too. I just made a cut of how Gen Z is kind of viewing a lot of these topics and what they see as a possible future for them. Yeah. Because I think it would be really interesting to see how a lot of these kids are thinking, especially now that social media has just taken the world by storm. Sure. When I'm only 23, but when I was in middle school, social media was not what it is now. Sure. And so as a result, it was not in my face 24/7. And so I only saw what I saw on TV, which is already enough to force me to lean one way more than another. But now that we have access to social media 24/7, I think it would be really interesting to see how Gen Z is being affected.
No doubt. Let me say this as well. Let me jump here because I said that's one side of the coin. For the other, for me, the reason why that transition was so tough is because that was my social group. It's dealing with basketball. So now
Right.
you're taking something that I've identified. When I played basketball late. I started late. I started like my 9th grade summer. But still, I've been playing basketball for that long, and now you're saying you can't play that anymore. If you can, it's not like you're gonna be with the team, get on the bus, and doing all that other stuff. That's tough because I didn't do anything else but basketball. Like I wasn't a partier, didn't drink, didn't smoke in college at all. I didn't. I don't know, man. I wasn't outdoorsy. Like basketball was it for me. So I can only imagine how it is, that transitional point for other people. If that's what this ball is life mindset of, this is all I provide the world, and you take that away from me.
Yeah.
That's tough, man. I mean, I know from my standpoint, I work at a university now. If we have a student athlete that is having an injury or whatnot, or I don't know, got kicked off the team, my mindset is I have my eyes on this individual, right? Because I want to make sure that you don't fall between the cracks, and I know that you're no longer associated with the individuals that you found your identity with.
Right.
So I want to make sure that, hey, man, let me let you know about some other clubs and organizations on this campus that can help you get adjusted, because it's tough to get acclimated, if that's taken away from you.
Yeah, especially in a rush. Acclimating to anything in a rush, especially when you don't have any prior interest, is just so much more difficult. So I completely agree with that, man. I do.
One thing that I definitely took away from our first interview, some of you that have not seen that interview, I encourage you to go and watch that interview. But it was you and another young man that was dead set on just some of those fundamentals on the academic side that a lot of people miss out on. Right? We can talk about fundamentals on the basketball side, but let's talk about the ones on the academic side. Like you were telling me how you were very much so a planner. Like I remember you had something you were like planning the day and all this other stuff. That's like a fundamental deal that a lot of people don't do. Can you talk about how that looked as being a student athlete, as far as the whole planning and being organized, and how much grief that saved you?
So I think the beauty of being there are a lot of a lot of positive things that come out of being a student athlete, and I think one of the most important ones and one of the most desirable things from employers is your time management skills. And I was talking about this with Derek about an hour ago. Obviously, there are so many things. It's the life becomes like a juggling match. You got to juggle school, social life, or regular life, and then your impossible athletic schedule.
Yeah.
So I think as a result of that, you almost have no choice. You're like cornered, because if you don't time manage, you're gonna drown.
Yeah.
I know for me, I tried to keep as clean of a schedule as I could, so that I know if I do get an opportunity where it could fit.
Yeah.
And I think that balance is representative, especially on a broader scale, what life looks like after school, or after ball, because I don't care if you're LeBron, you at some point you're gonna have to put the ball down.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to know how to allocate your time.
Sure. I think you're being humble right now, man. I appreciate that, but I think that's something you bring to the table that a lot of student athletes don't, as it relates to that. Because for us, a lot of our time is already allotted. So we know what time we have to be at practice. We know what time study hall is. So I didn't see very many people that were still trying to organize their time beyond that. It was almost like my coach is doing it for me. So I know I got this class this time. I know I have this study hall here. I know I have a game here, a practice here. But to be able to craft out times inside of that and still plan, that's not a lot of people. A lot of people don't have that, but you definitely have that, Max.
I appreciate that, bro. I do. I just think that comes from getting into the habit of that from school.
Were you like that in high school?
In high school, that's when I kind of learned how to become more organized. I was a terrible student in middle school all the way up to about 8th grade. And then my grandmother really got my act together academically. And then I actually got some own personal self-pride and interest in actually doing well. And I saw the value of having knowledge and being knowledgeable. And so once I kind of gained that perspective, it was like, it was so much easier for me to start to be organized and seeing the value of having an organized lifestyle, especially when you have a lot of things going on. And like, just like you, like I never drank, never smoked, not a big partier. So that definitely helped ease my social life or my outside of school and basketball life. But even when that's very calm, school and basketball can be so time consuming that you have to stay organized. So I think that those are the two things that just really helped me to get into this habit now.
I wish I had that because I have it more now, but when I was in college, listen, between classes, that's sleep time, man. What are you talking about? Like, that's sleep time. I would push all myself to the end. I wasn't organized. I kind of flew by the seat of my pants. Outside the schedule that my coaches, I always adhere. I was never late when my coaches had me be at something. But as far as me planning inside of that, like I talked to the guy that he was at Nebraska Wesleyan. What's my man's name? His name is I'm gonna forget his name, so I'll turn off the screen now. I'll remember it. But anyway, he was talking about utilizing that time in between classes to study, and I was just such. I was like, why did not utilizing time on the bus to study? I was like, why did I think of that? And he got a 4.0 and won a national tournament won a national championship the same year at Nebraska Wesleyan. He said it all came to maximizing those pockets of time. Instead of waiting for this grand finale at the end of the day where you studying and cramming, he said those little small times when everybody else is messing off and sleeping and playing grab, but he's in there actually studying. So I'm like, okay, yeah.
And to piggyback off of that, once you get into the habit of like responsibly allocating your time, it's gonna keep you out of trouble, like just naturally. Like I know a handful of athletes that have jeopardized their career or ended their career because they spent their free time doing things that they shouldn't have been doing.
I believe
first of all, like you have a midterm tomorrow, and you haven't studied all month, whatever, however much time they're given to study. You haven't studied all month. And then you decide to go to this party the night before the midterm, and then stuff happens. Like, it's crazy.
You in your position now, I mean, from going around state to state, meeting all these people, you're being able to see the kind of like the underbelly of the compensation side of it, whether it be marketing, whether it be branding, whether it be actual sales or whatnot. Talk to me about how that looks as far as college is concerned, because there's a big talk about, college athletes getting paid and things like that. Tell me your thoughts on that kind of stuff.
So I actually, and this is really rare because, again, like as a Division III athlete, like the attention on what's going on in the Division III atmosphere is so much less than the attention and to detail that is paid at the Division I level.
Absolutely.
So, I remember, and I was talking about this with my friend Derek, and I had a game. Was that my senior year? I think it was my senior year, and we were playing it was an away game at the other school.
Okay.
And I'm on layup lines. There's like 10 minutes left before the game starts. So I'm in uniform. Well, everybody's in the gym, and my coach calls me over, and he's like, "Max, you can't play tonight." And I'm like, "Why? Well, I don't understand why I can't play."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "The NCAA has ruled you ineligible indefinitely." Mm-hmm. And so I was obviously really frustrated and annoyed, but I didn't have a full understanding of why.
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually I found out that a player right before the game saw a flyer that I was put on for a dunk contest that was a charity event. All of the proceeds were going to cancer. but the flyer said $10 admission. And that's where the problem lies with the NCAA. So basically, the player told the assistant coach before the game. The assistant coach told the head coach. They called the conference commissioner. Conference commissioner called my school's AD, who called my coach, all in the span of that warm-up at the game, and then they yanked me off the court.
This your senior year?
Yeah, my senior year.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's my senior year. So I get back to campus, have a conversation with my coach, figure out all of the details of what's going on. And it comes to find out, first of all, that event with that flyer, it didn't even happen. It got canceled. So I didn't even participate. But the NCAA was assuming that I was getting personally compensated for my participation in that event.
Yeah.
Because the $10 admission suggests that I might be financially benefiting from it. And that's where they have a problem. It's because that takes away from the amateurism of being a college athlete. That then makes me automatically a professional, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And so then that infuriated me so much that I did my own research, and I found like an electronic version of the NCAA handbook, and like down to the article of where they deem that as grounds for becoming ineligible.
Sure.
And their reasoning behind it is they want to keep education a priority.
Okay.
And B, as I said before, keeping that amateurism.
Yeah.
And so I disagree for a few reasons. My main concern or my main issue with it is that there are other ways to keep education a priority and allow athletes to make money. Like a majority of people that have been in college, whether you're an athlete or not, are financially struggling to get through the college process. People come out $100,000 worth of debt.
No doubt.
So obviously, people are going to do what they can to make money.
Yeah.
So in terms of keeping education a priority, all you have to do is give these athletes a specific GPA that they have to maintain if they want to profit off of their own likeness.
Yeah.
That keeps these students incentivized to have good grades. Because otherwise, if you don't have good grades, you can't make money. And that's like, it's just as simple as that.
Yeah.
And so I think I missed 2 games after that. But that was only one of the, I think there was 2 different times where the NCAA was like really keeping a microscope on my Instagram, and it was causing so many issues that shouldn't be. Like I was trying to do a good deed and participate in a cancer charity event.
Yeah.
NCAA was not having that. And so I think the reason why, and we had this conversation last week maybe, why the NCAA caught so much flack for this coronavirus reaction or response is because of all of those previous issues that they've had in the past.
Yeah.
Because they've created, like they've ate up so much of the leash and the leisure that they used to have that people are, there's no looking at the NCAA's take on a lot of things and saying, okay, well, they're actually trying to prioritize the athletes. And I think with this specific coronavirus issue, after the NBA had already canceled their season and other major professional leagues were on the verge of canceling, the NCAA should have followed immediately and did the same instead of still sitting on their declaration of having their players continue to play and just not having fans. And I think it's very easy for a lot of people on the outside to look at this as the NCAA saying, we can't lose our March Madness money because this is a $1 billion time of the year.
Sure.
So we're just going to try and salvage as much money as we can and jeopardize the health of the players.
Yeah. I understand that.
So I honestly think that they shouldn't have caught as much flack as they did.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that they should have responded sooner. It should have been right on the heels of the NBA, the NFL, everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. It's just tricky for me, in the sense of just kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier as far as compensation goes. I'm more worried about. I think that likeness and compensation, though they're similar, they have their differences. And a lot of times when I've been hearing this conversation, it was more like dollars in student athletes' pockets, and I don't know if I can jump on that bandwagon. Because again,
you're paid in general, like every athlete. Paid.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that looks a little bit different than likeness on the poster and whatnot. But yet and still, if I'm not Zion, right? So I'm not Zion Williamson. That looks a little bit different for that crop of a player. But for me, man, at a Division II school, a guy that wasn't supposed to graduate high school, let alone college with a master's, when I got to college at OBU, man, we had cats working a concession that wasn't getting paid a quarter. Out of the goodness of their heart, for us to even have a game, like we had people working parking lot duty. Like, so for me, the audacity of me to say that on top of my scholarship, $25,000 y'all paying a year, I want y'all to put some money in my pocket. For me, and this is not me calling anybody this or anybody that, but I think that's selfish for me. Likeness is a whole different deal, because if a guy played the bassoon, he's the bomb bassoon player, and this church wants to pay him playing the bassoon. He's the first chair for the university. Nobody bats an eye at that. They say, okay, well, you can make money off that or whatnot. That's not a problem. So I don't see why Max Pearce can't have how to be a better jumper, how to be a better dunker or whatnot on his free time. If that's something he can bring to the table, I don't think anything's wrong with that. But I say all that to say this. I was in a major city, and I'm not going to tell you the major city I was in, because I don't want to seem like I'm trying to shame the city, because all major cities have this problem anyway, as far as poverty is concerned.
Yeah.
All right. But I was at this major city, and me being naive of living in a major city, I didn't know how many layers poverty is. Like when people go panhandling or homeless. I thought, well, the only reason they're out there is because they don't have money. And some of the people are not out there because there's so many different variables. Some of them may be veterans, and they don't have the medication they need. Like there's so many different things and variables of why they're out there, other than they just lack a dollar. But to make yourself feel good, it's easy to give them a dollar and be like, okay, I've done my good deed. It feels great doing that. But if you want to actually tackle the problem, that calls on a different type of effort. And I say that in parallel to paying student athletes actual physical money. If you want to do that because you want to appease the masses of this whole crusade of, hey, just pay them money, then that's one thing. It'll make you feel good. But at the end of the day, Max, are we addressing student athletes that are majoring in cupcakes classes? Are we addressing that? Or are we hoping that this money is going to sustain them or pacify them in a way that doesn't matter? And that's why I'm more worried about how to read and write. And I work at a university, right? Yeah. I know of student athletes that read on a below like middle school, elementary school level, right? Yeah. And you think money's gonna solve that? A wise man told me that a fool and money are often parted. Yeah. Meaning, I can give you all the money in the world, but if you don't have financial literacy to hold it, you won't keep it long. That's not your money. You just holding it for me. Right. You understand? Yeah. So, likeness is a whole different conversation. I want them to be getting treated fairly, and all that, but I think it begs more questions than just like making sure they have money in their pocket.
I agree with that take. I am of a very similar, if not identical, stance when it comes to, because again, like likeness and just all players, all athletes getting paid is very different. Sure. Because once you pay one athlete, you have to pay all athletes. Sure. And for
it's a Title IX, all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
exactly. And a lot of schools, their athletic programs generate close to nothing for their institution.
Absolutely.
While there are schools like Ohio State's football program and Duke's basketball and all the tip top of the crop that are generating millions, there are schools on the other end of the spectrum that don't generate anything. And because they don't generate anything, there's not going to be any revenue to allocate to the athletes.
Yeah.
It's just that simple.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And so for that reason alone, it makes the problem so much more complex when you're trying to figure out whether you need to pay all athletes blindly. Like just blanket pay everyone. That's the rule.
I think that's
And
wild.
so then I've even thought about like, well, then there has to be some kind of formula in which that number or the revenue that a specific team generates for a school gets plugged into a formula, and then it goes into how those athletes get paid.
Sure.
But there are more layers to that, because
Absolutely.
then you got to figure out what players, like Duke's team last year, everyone should not be getting paid what Zion gets paid. Just point blank, period. Because, right. So then you have to go even deeper into, okay, how much did Zion generate exactly, and how much did everyone generate exactly?
Yeah.
And so it's just too complex of an issue, and I don't know if we're ever going to be able to reach a common ground where the public and the NCAA can come to one, I guess, rule of thumb for whether athletes should be generally paid or not. So I think paid off the likeness is the right move.
Oh yeah.
But I do think that obviously we're not completely there yet, because I think only 2 states have signed. I think the second one was this week, actually.
Mhm.
I don't remember what state it was. I keep wanting to say Illinois. I don't remember though.
Yeah, that's big. That's big, man. I don't know how to segue into my next question because it's kind of off the beaten path of this, but
Well, whatever, bro. It's
yeah, I had a question about. I know a lot of people may have the same question. Just the feeling that you felt when you knew that you could be on a video game coming from a Division III program.
Yeah, I think first of all that's in direct correlation with this whole entire conversation, because it automatically
Definitely compensation.
mentally it just brings me right back to that that subject area where we're talking about
Likeness
and Division III products.
Yeah.
Like the division, this just doesn't happen for Division III athletes.
No, it doesn't.
Like I was asking all of the staff members at NBA Live and NBA 2K, and they literally told me that I was like the first Division III athlete to be fully featured in a game. So like there have been 2 other Division III athletes that have been in a game, but it's been on a very general level, and it was during the time where players or athletes didn't come into the studio to get a face scan, a body scan, the whole motion capture, the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
It was all of the video game developers just looking up the information of every rostered name in the league, putting them on the game. So I think it was like NBA Live 03 or 4 or something like that was the last time a Division III player was fully featured. Was featured, not fully featured. So just knowing that, going into that whole process, that's one of my most memorable and prized accomplishments. It's this on my wall, right? It's actually right here.
Okay.
I think about that experience so much, just because of like what it means for Division III athletes that are up and coming. I think the more that Division III athletes begin to break the mold and open doors, it's going to become a much more household thing to see Division III athletes thrive and flourish in a lot of these big stage atmospheres.
Did you think about it before you got there, or were you just Was it like hindsight is 2020? Now that you look back, like, oh, that's pretty impressive. Did you know it when you were walking in here, like, man, this is uncharted territory?
No, I definitely knew going in that it was special. I didn't know whether it was uncharted, and when I say that, I kind of mean whether it had been done or not. But I do know that going in, I knew that it wasn't a common thing at all. Just for the mere fact that like they really only include the NBA players, and so
that's what I started. Yeah, NBA and maybe some mascots. Shout out to Stretch. Right. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, yeah, that was really special for sure.
I definitely got some more questions for you, man, but I'm being mindful of this.
Yeah, I think we got 13 or 14 minutes.
Okay, because we got in about 7:30. It's about my time is 7:30, and now it's about coming around 8:30.
Hold on, let me see.
So I'm thinking that it's gonna cut us off here in the moment.
8:33. Oh yeah, we got 8 minutes.
Gotcha.
We got 8 minutes.
Let me think. Here's a question. Say one of the best questions. All of them are great questions, but one of the best questions for almost last, and that is, what kind of advice would you give student athletes coming out of high school and they're getting to that realization point that, you know what, I'm not a D1 prospect, I'm not a McDonald's All-American, I'm not going to Duke, I'm not going to North Carolina, and I think that going to Division II, Division III, or pretty much anything other than anything other than Division I is beneath me or corny. What would you say to a person like that?
So let me just be sure I have the scene set correctly. So you're saying an athlete that says Division I or
is the only one coming out of high school. That's the only thing that I'm into, and I'm not interested in Division II, Division III, NAI, anything else.
Okay, got you. For starters, I think they need to do a quick chunk of research on how many players actually play professionally, even from that Division I standpoint. It's always good to have an accurate depiction of whatever realm that you're pursuing.
Yeah.
But this advice is more so universal to everyone, but use college as an opportunity to figure out what your other passions are. I know that was the case for me. When I was kind of growing up, I didn't really pay too much attention to anything outside of school and basketball.
Sure.
But once I got to college and I was like living on my own and kind of realizing throughout the fault of some other teammates and just stories of other teammates, I started realizing that I need to begin to engage in some other things. And so use college as an opportunity to figure out what other avenues or other possible avenues of success you have as an individual.
Did you have that maturity yourself coming in from out of high school, or did it take years of college for you to realize, like, were you as appreciative coming out senior in high school, like, man, I get to go to Division III, or was it something you had to be kind of coerced and saying,
there were times,
great opportunity?
There were times where I felt like, so first off, I was faced with the opportunity to play at a few Division II schools and a Division I school in Miami. It was a Division I NAIA, and then I had a bunch of D3s. And I had a conversation with my friend. His name is Jamal Webb, and he's been a mentor of mine, especially within the basketball aspect of my life, as far as I can remember. And he said something that always stuck with me. And he said, would you rather be a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond?